Once there was an ant named Ant. He had a maroon back that he had been tanning all summer long. In passing, a few characters high and low referred to him as Red. Though he could understand their mistake, he was always sure to correct them. "I'm maroon," he'd say, beaming with pride over his new tan. Ant had let the summer sun roast his skin into broad blends of deep browns and purples until he found the perfect maroon. He crawled around his village, telling anyone who'd listen about his new shade. Unfortunately, nobody listened. You see, Ant was the type of ant that had the same effect on a supple set of nerves that sharp metal had on soft cheddar. Pure fromage, grating nerves and gritting teeth. Though many ants attempted to avoid him, he would sneak up on them with his sun-kissed camouflage-esque coloring. He'd open his mouth wide. They'd say, "Yes, you're maroon. We get it, Ant. You're maroon." Then they would back up and run away. His mother tried to prepare him for the world and what might come for an ant with such a colorful personality. She quietly approached him as he napped on a toothpick. She gazed at him, lying there with his discolored skin and his signature dopey expression. "What are we gonna do with you?" she thought. Bang! Ant's mother slammed her feeler on the toothpick. Ant was immediately thrust into a one-sided game of toothpick totter gone wrong. An ant-shaped reddish-brown ball flew into the sky. He soared at least an inch and landed on his back with his little feet waving in the air. "I didn't think so," she said. "You still can't recover from a toothpick toss, and look, you can't reverse a backland." "Ah, Mama, ah," Ant cried. "Ant, you can't cry for your mama every time the ground moves. You know the Mama," he yelled again. Her poor, bludgeoned nerves. "Ant, earthquakes in our village are as common as phantom squishings. I can't be with you all the time. I'm gonna coach you. Listen." "Ah!" The pitch of his voice moved from the rich tone of a 16-hour-old to the heights of a screeching, terrible 2-minute. "Ah!" "Bend your feelers, Ant, and stop crying like a larva. Turn your back toward me and hook your left foot." "I can feel my skin melting on the scorching rock, Ma." The color drained from Ant's mother's face. "Oh, my boy, we need to get you a doctor." She shifted Ant to see his underside. She gasped, looking at his steaming, burning back. "Oh, my boy!" She stumbled forward in shock, then fainted. Ant could hear the wind whistling through the grass trees. He felt the hot surface of the pebble scalding him. "Ma! Ma!" His voice a staccato, nasal honk. "Ma! Ma! Ma!" He listened. "Ma!" He tilted his head further forward and wiggled his antenna. He could see his mother on the ground. How dramatic, he thought. Like she hasn't smelt a bit of burnt skin. She was there for the last raid. Oh, that was ugly. Ant was trapped on a flaming pebble, fully aware that the maroon tan he'd been perfecting all summer was at stake. He looked over at his mother sprawled out like a snow ant. The thought of ice and snow briefly pulled him away from the heat. He dreamt of winters by the hole with his buddies on a silver dollar, sliding down the hill by the snowball. The scene was white and crystalline, overlapping beautifully. He could visualize it all. He felt cool and thought about the first ant to climb Mount Pleasant Curb, and what a thrill it must have been. "I'm gonna change the world too," he thought. Left feeler hunched back, just like Mama said. "Grrr up!" Ant asserted as he landed on 8 legs on the pebble. Ant jumped from the rock and landed in the soft dirt. With a throbbing back, he stood over his unconscious mother. He knew they both needed a doctor, but he couldn't figure how he was going to carry her on his burnt back. Ant hunched down, pressed his lips against his mother's antenna. "Ma!" he yelled. Nothing. He bit down on his mandibles, pulled his limp mother onto his back like a crumb, and began to move toward the ant hospital to see Dr. Ant. The hospital resembled any other hole, with a feather bed, a dusty, half-swept floor, no window, and many female red and black ants running around pulling sterile tacks and paper clips. The doctor was a massive red adult male with skyrocketing set of antennae. It's said that he could control the weather with those things. Aunt's mother lay on the bed with her pinchers loose and her antennae falling over her face like bangs. Aunt walked in with a fleck of cotton swab draped across his back. He looked down at his mother and began to feel the weight of guilt. This is all my fault, he thought. He prepared to bark out a "Ma." He opened his mouth and crinkled his mandibles, but he couldn't get past the M. He started to cry, burying his head in her metazoma sac, shaking from feeler to foot. As his tears increased, he thought about how his mother used to protect him from the wrath of the students at Sir Wilfrid Ant High School, and how she was always by his side. His cries came out in annoying gasps, then irregular half-sneeze bursts. Aunt's mother's face crinkled. Her antennae started to beat and shake. Her pinchers pursed, and she suddenly jerked forward in bed and yelled, "What the heck is that sound? Oh my, so awful! Sounds like a suffocating spider." Her jolt of excitement sent Aunt flying again, maybe half an inch or so, directly into the dirt wall. A nurse rushed in upon hearing Aunt's wall thud. The cotton swab that had been draped over his shoulders was now a tight ball beside the bed, and Aunt was face down with his back on display. The air in the room became noticeably absent as Aunt's mother and the nurse inhaled deeply. The two aunts stared at him in shock. The doorway to the hospital room became filled with nurses chatting and chuckling about Aunt's new burnt, scratched, scabbed, and black polka-dotted back. "Oh dear, what happened to your back?" one nurse said. "Oh my queen, look at that. What a shame. How on earth?" His mother's tears fell fast. Through the sea of black and red ant nurses, the red ant doctor's massive marble head appeared. He looked at Nurse Ant and said, "Yo, what's all the commotion, ladies?" "We got it, sir," head Nurse Ant said sternly. "All under control." She stood to shield Ant from the doctor. She knew it was time for action, but she didn't want Big Red to have any part. She turned to the nurse on her right and whispered, "I should have been the doctor. I'm so much smarter than that ant. Just because I was laying eggs during the final medical exams doesn't mean I can't hold a staple." "Doc, why don't you go finish your lunch? We've got it under control here." "Oh, really? That's so cool of you." He stood on his hind feelers and smacked his dumb face against the dirt roof. "Oops, okay, I'll get back to it, Ants." Dr. Ant paused and smiled and nodded his head and backed out of the door. "Can you believe him?" a nurse said. "You should be in charge," another said. "That is not fine." Head Nurse Ant followed the doctor to the door, then turned around as he left. She ran over to a nurse. "You get the staple and get it now. Heat it to 2 degrees and bring it back to me. It's time for a transplant. I want all hands and pinchers washed before anyone approaches the body." "Hey!" the polka-dotted ant yelled. "I'm sorry, the kid," head nurse Ant said. "Okay, ladies, I'm in charge now. Get me the staple. Be careful with the match. I don't want any more casualties today." "Hey, I'm still alive, lady," Ant said from the ground. "Yes, sir. Don't panic. We're just going to remove the skin and replace it using excess skin from some of the Nike shoe casualties. I'll also need a few grains of medicinal sugar. Don't let it melt." She reached down and patted Ant on the head. "We're going to try to make sure you're feeling good throughout the process. Just let the sugar sink in and take you away. If you feel a sting, just let us know and we'll top you up." Ant's mother finally convinced herself that she wasn't dreaming and reacted. "Excuse me, headmistress," his mother said. "It's head nurse, madame." The polka-dotted ant looked up at the 2 other ants and said, "I don't want a transplant." "Sorry," Ant's mother said. "Ant dear, I know how you feel about being different. You like it. But this, my dear, is going too far. Just get the new back and enjoy the rest of your life with little dignity. You still have a lot of time." Head nurse Ant turned to Ant's mother. "Oh, ma'am, the recovery is about 2 months. He'll be here on heavy sugar supplements until then. He'll be quite sedated." "What? 2 months? That's like my whole life," the polka-dotted ant yelled. "No, it's not. You'll be safe here and not at risk of any accidents or incidents," his mother said. "You mean incidents where someone might see your son looking less a shade of red than you could bear. I know you hated my maroon. You'd rather me bandage up so you don't have to look at me," Ant said. "You won't be bandaged." Ant's mother turned to the nurses with a nervous smile. "He won't be bandaged, Willie." The nurses nodded. Ant's mother stared at the wall, trying to figure out the appropriate facial expression for such bad news. She smiled and turned back to Ant. It won't be that bad, Ant. Just think of how much happier you'll be with a nice, fresh, taut red back. You could probably choose your hue. I'd go for a pure shade to show your bloodline, but if you wanted to go for a crimson or a dark cherry, I'd even support it. She raised her antenna and batted her compound eyelashes, attempting to make what she was saying sound less evil. Ma'am, head nurse Ant said, I have some news that might make him feel better about the procedure. I knew it, his mother said. There's always a silver lining, Ant. Listen, come on up, sit up, get up here on the bed with me, baby. But Ma! Ant's mother heard his shrill words straight from his nasal cavity, and she began to grind her pinchers. Okay, Mrs. Nurse, let him have it. The good news about his new back. Well, the good news, the casualties from the Nike shoe disaster were red and black ants. What? Both Ant and his mother said simultaneously. His hopeful contrasted sharply by her expression, which conveyed something entirely different. Are you trying to say he'd get the back of a dark-colored ant? His mother said, putting a feeler up and out to keep her balance. He'd be the first one. I feel very certain it would be a safe procedure. I'm gonna change the world, Ant said, with horror reflected in bulging eyes and spiked antennae. Ant's mother looked at the nurse, aware that her expression was once again inappropriate. She thought about how she had tried to instill strong principles in her son and the pure line of breeding within their family. Glancing at her son, now smiling, she placed her hand over and squeezed his. Oh, my young Ant, she said. He looked at her, uncertain if he should smile. Oh, my dear. He continued to gaze at her, trying to read what was coming next. She pulled his hand to her chest and held it there. I wish your father were still alive. Mama, I want to do it. You what? Can you hear yourself? She said, clearing her throat. You don't know how things will change. We'll have to move. Move where? Ant said. Somewhere safe. Honey, this thing has been too public. Too many ants know that you're here. We'd have to find somewhere else for you to get back to your health, baby. Somewhere far from embarrassment, Ant said. This is not about pride. I want you safe, his mother said. Head nurse Ant approached with a tray of sharp stationery. Nurses, positions, please. Ant watched the crystalline hunk of sugar hang in front of his face, then into his pinchers, and he felt the room begin to spin as he fell into a sugar coma. He smiled, lying on his stomach. The nurses moved in for the operation. Ant awoke feeling cold. The room, once filled with bickering voices, had grown still. The commotion had turned to silence, and the silence was unsettling. He couldn't see in front of him. He smelt a pungent, salty odor and wondered if he should be awake yet. Why am I so cold? It's summer. What if I slept for 2 months? Where are the nurses? Ma! Ma! He yelled, then stopped. He couldn't remember the head nurse Ant's name. From the battle with the doctor, he knew it started with an A. What was it? He took a complete guess. Ant! 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 A stream of light shot into the room. Ant squinted to see who might be coming to rescue him from the darkness. Hello? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I apologize, ma'am. Can you please come here and tell me why it's so dark? The door opened, and he could see a figure in the doorway. Hi there, can you help me? Please just rest, sir. You'll need it, the nurse said. I've rested. It seems all I've done is rest, Ant remarked. Where's my ma? I think, the nurse started. I know she was unhappy about this, but she'll get used to it. She always gets used to things. Young one, please rest. I'll close the door now. Hey! The red ant nurse picked up the ripped Admit 1 ticket and placed it against the hole, blocking light from Ant's eyes. He wondered why she was being so secretive. He wanted to get out and flaunt. There was a whole new group of people he wanted to meet. He had to learn a lot about the black ant culture. This marked the beginning of a new life. He wanted to start immediately. He wanted to see his new skin. Defeated, he tried to sleep but couldn't. Ma! Nothing. He slid out of the bed, wavered on his feet, and moved over to the warm wall, touching and feeling spots. He moved about the room, testing the dirt until he found an opening. He pushed. The dirt gave way until he saw light. I should go back and get Ma, he thought. As he placed his leg in front of him, he saw an unexpected sight. To Ant's left, he saw a massive group of red ants clapping in his direction. He then turned to the right and saw a gigantic swarm of black ants, which began to clap slowly. Ant looked behind him at the mirror and saw something beautiful. The left half of his back was red and the right half was black. He grinned and looked forward at his people. The two groups began to mingle, shaking feelers and embracing. Ant looked into the crowd and saw his mother slowly pushing her way through. She was grinning and her eyes were full of tears. She ran to him and grabbed his feelers. "My son, look what you've done. I've changed the world." He put his hands on his hips, twirled around, showcasing his multicolored back for everyone to see.